call the meeting to order. August 2nd, 7 p.m. Well, 7:04 p.m. We've got John, Jen, and Julie on the screen. All right, so we do have a quorum. We got a quorum plus. I think everybody's here but George, right? Oh, and Sonia.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't
I've
seen
Sonia for a while.
haven't seen her in I think 3 or 4 meetings, maybe.
Yeah, it's mostly just been some conflict timing, really. But she had been giving some feedback on the surveys.
Okay, all right.
Most of it's concerned she's okay. I hope she's all right.
We have, for citizens' comments, we have no citizens in the audience today. But we do have minutes that were issued for both our May and June minutes. Did I have that right?
Sonia was at the May meeting. Yeah, for what it's worth.
So could we have did everybody get a chance to look at the minutes?
Yeah. John, your last name is N-I-C or N-I-K?
N-I-C.
N-I-C.
N-I-C-O-L-I.
That's what I thought. Max, we got to spell his name correctly.
Yeah, he got my email.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Okay.
That would be good.
Yeah, it'd be helpful. Kind of know what's happening.
All right, so and that was on the June meeting, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So could I have a motion to accept the May minutes
As amended.
as amended?
To correct John's last name spelling.
That was the May?
That was June.
Or
That was June. Yeah, I'm saying for May.
Oh, sorry. You're asking for, I apologize.
We got to do each one, right?
Get with the show program.
So could I have somebody make a motion to approve the May minutes?
I'll make that motion.
We have a second?
I'll second.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor? All right, so that has passed unanimously. Jen's got her hand up too, I see.
Yeah.
All right. And could I have a motion to accept the June minutes
As amended.
as amended?
So we'll
Second. Straight out.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Yep.
All right, passed unanimously.
July will be deferred, and I'll get ready.
And then we'll be caught up.
Yep.
Awesome. Chair report, I don't really have much. It was Waldoboro Food Pantry Day today. I don't have the official numbers for the individuals in the towns, but we did have 133 families that were served today.
Is that up from last?
It's up from the last food pantry and down a little bit. Our record is 151.
So it's right in that range.
It's right in that range.
Okay.
And
When you look at the numbers pre-COVID, these numbers are much, much higher.
probably almost double.
Yeah.
It's doubled now
Yeah.
from, I believe
From
that.
pre-COVID,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And so we in fact, today, I don't know the gentleman who donated, but today, Natalie and I do the delivery, so we deliver in town. But today, a gentleman came in with crates of fresh blueberries.
Oh, wow.
What a wonderful treat.
Yeah, that's,
So, yeah,
that's pretty awesome.
yeah, that made my day when I saw that. And so the other thing I want to mention is, and there's lots of folks that donate and are just wonderful, but somebody who doesn't get a lot of credit is Borealis. And we should know that Borealis donates all their end of day bread to the food pantry.
Wow.
And we get, Natalie and I pick up on Saturday and we must have had 500 loaves of bread.
Wow, that's a lot of calories.
500 loaves?
Maybe that's an exaggeration, but it was a lot.
That's a lot of bread.
Yeah. And so today I noticed a lot of the folks got 2 bags of bread in their distribution, which is wonderful. So
Now that gardens are coming in, are you accepting produce from people who grow it and just
can't possibly eat it.
We absolutely do. And we obviously, the challenge becomes that also the farmers donate their food at this time of the year too. So there's an abundance, but we did actually, I heard today from Janet that we actually did run out of fresh fruit and vegetables today for the last 4 or 5 families. So we do need, it is a need item.
When there's an abundance of like fruits and vegetables and perishables, what do you guys do?
We have a cold room,
Yeah, oh, okay, so you do.
and so we can store,
Yeah.
like potatoes, we can store.
No, that's 9 months or something.
All the bread goes in the cold room, so it's kept fresh. All the fruits, all the milk, all that goes, eggs, all that goes in the cold room. We can keep that for a good period of time.
So pretty minimal waste then in that per day.
Yeah, minimal, there is almost no waste.
Oh,
Yeah. All right. So that's all I have. John, do you want to give us a COVID update?
I sure will. Give me just a second. I have some notes that I need to refer to.
Okay, do you want me to move on and come back to you?
Sure, I'll get those up.
Right. So Ruben, I got an email from you. So this, it's just a broadband. I got an email from you. Do you want to
Yeah,
give us an update?
and this is a document I'll forward to everyone here. I didn't want to run afoul of our rules of communicating
That would be fine.
pre-meeting, so I sent a copy to you and I sent a copy to Max. And what I've done is I've run down what's available in the town for internet just for residential. I put commercial stuff aside because that's a lot more complicated, a lot more almost per pole. The short version is if the FCC changes their standard to 100 by 10 at the federal level for broadband definition, we'll have 2 carriers in town that provide that level of service with a retail price. If it goes to 100 by 100, we have 0 carriers in the town that can provide that with a retail price. This is not technical capability. This is what you could go and buy as a resident.
It's what's
Where the-
offered.
Yeah, where the line exists. I'm going to also condense this down in the next couple of days to something, basically a graph, just an image that shows you what's where, what the speeds are. And I'm breaking it down without promotional pricing or any of that, just what a sort of regular person can expect to pay, where they have access, what they do with that. The point with this is sort of incomplete. I want to start to set a baseline as we get our broadband survey back and we start to do that work. So we have a base level understanding of what we can do, what we're expecting from ISPs and how they might deal with each other. That will also include pricing. Charter's a great example where I will show you pricing on their regular retail, but also what they do if they coexist with, say, an LCI. And those numbers are different. And the point behind that will be, let's say we reach our goal of having fiber to every address in the town. That wouldn't just get you fiber to every address in the town. That would also get you competitive pricing where you're out of any kind of monopoly or duopoly. So I'll forward that. It's wordy. It's a couple pages long, but I think it will get everyone better informed. And the purpose behind getting it to a graph is so you can have both those documents to share publicly if you want. But I want something that you can sort of glance at and know what the state is.
So I have a kind of a quick question. So Spectrum, do you know if Spectrum has any intent of going to a fiber mode or having that as a part of their arsenal?
So eventually, there's not going to be a wireline carrier that's not fiber. Every cable provider, every time they improve their technology, they reach out with more fiber. They bring the nodes closer to the homes, and they'll have more nodes with more connections. Charter's state-of-the-art right now, the fastest internet you can buy today is around 940 down by 40 up. But without changing their technology, they can deliver up to a gigabit synchronous to an endpoint. It gets more complicated because if you have a node with, say, 20 homes connected and all 20 homes want to use that speed,
They can't. Yeah.
you're not going to get that right now. But the way people use internet at those speeds, it's less and less likely to notice. The whole point behind getting speeds that high is eventually you reach a point where no one has to ask how fast their internet is. While that's not an issue with fiber, it can still be an issue with fiber. It depends on how fast you are to that node and then how fast you're split off of that. So if you're only feeding your node at a gig and you have 20 people connected at a gig, you'll have the same problem. You can oversubscribe any technology.
Even with fiber.
Yeah.
even with fiber. Fiber scales a lot faster. Fiber will scale up to 10 gigs on what would be considered a normal fiber connection. That's one strand in and out. Coax right now won't go that fast as they have it deployed. I could send you all the papers on how the different technologies work. There's what these companies are doing with their tech, like what Spectrum is doing with cable, and there's what you can do with the generation of technology they're on. This write-up I did focuses on what you can go and get today. I did that for a very specific reason. There are fiber-based ISPs in the state who will get grants in wire towns. And when you read the grant, it says, hey, we're building a 10 gigabit ring that can deliver up to 10 gigs to a house. And then they'll sell a 50 by 10 megabit service. Those aren't the same thing. And it's easy for people to get tripped up. So I want to have a very purposeful, it's not what company's good or bad. This is what you can actually buy for your money. This is under the terms under which you can do so. That will also include a carrier that's not here yet, which is Fidium. And that's because they are popping around all our neighbors. On Friday in Rockwood, I'm installing my parents. They're getting gigabit fiber for $70. They're actually, yeah.
Who is that a?
So that is Consolidated Communications. So CCI is what you'll commonly hear them referred to, and then Fidium's the product. Much like Charter is the company and Spectrum is the product.
So were your parents getting Spectrum service before they got Fidium?
They're on Spectrum right now at 400 by 20. At the end of the week, they'll be switching over to fiber.
So Fidium is taking Spectrum on, at least in certain
If you can
locations.
deliver a gigabit over fiber, their promotional price is $70 a month. Those cable companies, as they're deployed, they can't compete. And that's why if you search Charter right now and you read Fierce Broadband is a great website, and they'll talk to you about what the technology is and what they can do. Charter and Cox and all these other companies are talking about what they can do on DOCSIS 4.0, which is great. It can do 10 gig synchronous to the node and all this other stuff. And there's precisely 0 implementations. That's why this document's important. It's not what's going to be on the polls, because it would be very easy to overhype and get excited about what might be, what those technologies could be. And then it's a real slippery slope. You'll have companies saying, hey, we're delivering this gigabit technology, but they're not delivering that level of service you need to be competitive and actually see a local economic impact. That's the same reason, while this document, you'll see, I talk about what they have for promotional rates. The headline is always what the retail rate is, because anyone can cut their price for a little while. That's the game. On Spectrum, if you stay with Spectrum, they'll cut their number down to, it's a $20 or $30 discount depending on the plan. And if you're really used to that, that's a great plan. If you don't need the upload, that might be a great plan. You'll also hear them talking about what would you ever do with all that speed, all that upload. They'll say nobody needs it. The reality is nobody can use it, so they have no idea.
Yeah.
So this is all to get us ready to make our decision as we start to get data and to make us sort of hyper aware of what the current state of the art is. And if anyone in here, anyone from the town is sitting down and having discussions with these ISPs, which I expect happens, that makes lots of sense. I just want everyone to be prepared with something, and you'll be able to search any of these terms and know if I'm blowing smoke at you or not. I think you'll find it's pretty accurate. If I'm wrong about something, tell me. I like being wrong. I learn something.
I just said that earlier today.
Yep.
Go ahead, Bob.
No, go ahead.
Quick question. Is there any upcoming competition to fiber optic?
No. So that's a really good question. And I'm a few weeks ago, I think it was you, Bob, at the select board meeting, talked about the importance of getting fiber everywhere.
Yeah.
It's fiber is the ultimate end game. Before I even get the fiber, I will always tell everyone you need a wireline connection to the house. If you go in a lab and that, you can pull more speed over a point-to-point radio link where it's just 2 places. That is the technology we'll see. You'll see people yell 5G. You'll have companies like Red Zone come in. They'll try to mix these technologies and do band mixing and all this other stuff. Band mixing is not a real term, but putting radio signals together. And in a vacuum or in very sort of sparse environments, you can get really great speeds. Same thing is true for Starlink through SpaceX, which is a really neat technology.
Well, that's kind of where I was going. Is that going to be replicated somewhere else? Or?
Those technologies are really good for we want to get to a point where 99.9% of our homes are connected. There are going to be people who can't get the wire to their house easily, or it's going to be a long time. The smart goal is to connect as many people physically to the network as possible, so those wireless technologies, whatever they are left with the fewest number of connections. Now that's hard because you're telling those companies, we're purposely giving you as little business as possible.
Right.
But those businesses don't scale well. We've been burned twice in this town, for Midcoast Internet Wireless and more recently with Red Zone. The nodes get oversubscribed or they age and the speeds burn way down, or the speeds they deliver consistently are no longer adequate. And when you upgrade that, put more bandwidth over those connections, the radio frequency they have isn't viable. So to do any of these things, even with a really strong 5G network, you need a good fiber network in place to feed those other pieces. So it's not so much a replacement. You need a strong fiber wired network before you can realize anything major about those other technologies.
There used to be this thing about Cat 5. And now they're talking about Cat 6.
So you're right. There's a bunch of different categories of Ethernet. Cat 5, good for 100 megabits. They don't make it anymore. Cat 5e is good for a gigabit at 100 meters, or 10 gig at about 10 feet. Cat 6, same thing. Cat 6a is good for 10 gigabit over the wire. And then you get into fiber. You can buy fiber patches in levels of OM 1, 2, 3, and 4, and it all has to do with how well it passes that signal along. In my house, when we had our ceiling come down from all that water damage, I ran OM4 fiber up to my wife's office because it sounded super cool. It was on clearance. I'm using it just on regular gig between floors, soon to be 10 gig. That'll scale up to 100. That's inside your house, though. That's going to matter a lot less. If you bought new Ethernet today and weren't paying attention, you're probably going to be Cat 6, which is good for a gigabit over the wire, or 10 gig in a much shorter run.
If I'm on cable and feeding that Cat 6 with cable.
So it depends. So the only network I know super well is my own. So at my house right now, I'm on gigabit cable. It actually runs at about 1.2 on the very best day. That modem connects to my router with a 2.5 gigabit connection. You can run 2.5 gigabit over Cat 6. And then the rest of my network right now is 1 gigabit. It's soon going to be 10, so I can communicate with my NAS and my VMs and everything to move information faster. Saturating even a gigabit link in a multifamily home at any given time is going to spike. It's not going to be permanent. You will hear companies talk about, oh, you could never use that speed. That's always going to be true at some point, but there's always about to be something fast enough to do it. So if we were going to, let's say I got my wish and we bonded out something to help, say, Fidium complete a network in Waldoboro for the areas they would require. Yeah, you probably can't use 10 gig at your house right now. I don't really care because I want that technology to be in place for the next century. 50 years, I still want all that stuff to work. You can rip the wire out of a building or your house. If you build a brand new building these days, what, 50, 60 years in a single floor building before you're going to do something major to it? So those speeds are there, but I wouldn't let anything about Cat 5 or any of that sort of run afoul of what you want to get out of your major connection.
When you say run afoul, do you mean be willing to tear it out and put something better in?
What I mean is, so I had a conversation like this with a computer company that definitely wasn't Dell about how a computer could do certain things. And it's a system that's going to be out soon. And the question's always, oh, what would you even do with that? And not always, it's used to say what we're doing now is great, it's going to be fine. Don't let that stop you. Overestimate. Build something faster than you think you could reasonably think of a use for.
That's hard to sell people on. Well, especially in this town.
I'm sorry.
I see Jen, yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say Jen's had her hand up for.
Sorry.
Sorry, Jen.
No problem. Ruben, did you hear about what happened to some of the people on Roberts Road off 220 that were on red zone that have nothing right now?
I am aware. That has been at the top of my mind for a little bit.
For those people. Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure you knew, that's all.
Can I say something?
Yeah, of course. I get frustrated with those people, Jan, because when I talk to them, it was terrible. They didn't have anything. The inspector was telling it wouldn't be in until October, and they're not even sure they're going to be able to get it. And I started talking about the importance of speed and bandwidth and stuff, and I was told, we don't care about that. All we want to do is email. We don't want fiber. We don't want any. We're happy to have dial-up. And I was really disappointed at that level of what's the word? Demand. I guess the word I'm looking for is demand.
I think,
It's sort of a
Bob,
misinformation of what fiber potentially offers to people.
right, but I,
That puts the brakes on the rest of us.
you might want to think, though, that maybe part of that was desperation, that I would look at it and say, oh my God, they can't even email. And so they're really frustrated that they cannot even get an email out. Not necessarily that, I mean, actually, maybe when people are frustrated like that and they haven't got the service that they want, they're feeling isolated, maybe that's not the best time to talk to them about the future when they're just focused on the present, like, please solve my problem,
I hear you. Yeah, I can see how you interpret it that way.
Well,
And it also,
Julie, go ahead.
I'm driving, so I can't raise my hand properly.
All right.
There's also a financial component to that, and I think it's great. Everybody loves these speeds, and this is the way of the future. But there's also a fear factor of what it's going to cost people, because to some of us, paying $100 a month to be hooked to the internet might not be that much, but to some people, that could mean an awful lot.
Can I say something?
well, Jen has her hand up. Jen?
So just as an example, I'm paying the same amount for just internet from Spectrum right now at supposed to be 400 gigabytes per second, never has gone over 100, not even close to 100 actually. So now I'm learning about Cat 5, Cat 6. Nobody mentioned that to me. I may have one of those issues where I have a Cat 5 cable between my modem and my router. Maybe that's part of my problem. Who knows? But saying that, I could get the Fidium intro for a couple of years at the same price, way over, so that I could actually show my face to you and I wouldn't buffer or stop or freeze on my Zoom call, right? I mean, that might make a big difference for the same price. So, and I might be different than some of the other people because I don't have the TV anymore and I got rid of all that because I just do streaming whenever,
Right.
What's the status of the survey?
We can do that in the town updates, actually.
Oh, okay. Do you want to do that then? All right.
Well,
I want to make one more short point. Because I get real excited about speeds and specs, and I pride myself on building the fastest, ridiculous bullcrap I can think of. Speeds don't matter. And that will sound controversial for me. The core infrastructure matters. If you build out a cable network, it's not that the total cost of ownership for that, for whoever builds it, will not be as long as a pure fiber build at any level. The other thing that you need to realize is fiber is getting these injections not just from investors, but because the copper phone plants that are aging out are being replaced by that. When you sign up for Fidium, when you get your internet, and that's the main show, but they're doing the same thing as everyone else. You pick your internet plan, and then for $15 a month, they run their phone over that.
Yeah.
That's also what holds back some of the smaller ISPs running fiber, because they're still getting money for being the carrier of last resort over copper. And we need support to overcome that. The problem there is you're saying, hey, please rip away this benefit to get this other thing put in. And that's a whole other longer conversation. The speed conversation is not something you're going to win with most reasonable people. If you got a Fidium in, what you'd have is the cheapest basic plan, which is like $35 a month for the first year, then it goes up to 50. You get that there. But think about the core network going in and what it can do without major upgrades. Then you're just in maintenance and repair. That's going to be the headline. Whoever builds it or owns it, building a fiber network properly is less expensive to own.
Yep. And to respond to Julie's comment about prices, this country is so screwed up when
Yeah,
it
it
comes
is.
to fiber. You go to Singapore and you get 100 up and 100 down on fiber and pay $10 a month. And you do that because they recognize it as a utility and they don't have a bunch of private companies running around creating monopolies in certain regions and making money off people they shouldn't be making money off of. And the way we're doing it here is just totally ridiculous. It's wrong.
You must have read that book recently.
Yeah, I've read that book recently.
I'm right there with you,
And
Tom.
it's just so frustrating because people don't know how they're being ripped off. Anyway, I've had my piece.
How do you really feel?
All right.
That's how I feel.
I see Julie's hand up. I was just gonna say, we're already 30 minutes in and we haven't even done the COVID update yet.
I'm done
So-
saying internet words. I'm cutting myself off.
And we haven't, we had a survey to go over, so.
Yeah, so Julie, you can have the last word if you want on this.
Again, I think, Bob, you can speak to the bigger picture of what you think, but the reality is people care about what comes out of their pocket. And they
Right.
might have to cut their pattern to the size of their cloth. That's all.
I think when we get the survey in, and hopefully it's showing something, promoting more competition and perhaps a Fidium type network, we may not have to do much and just see the private market take its course on it.
Yeah,
And that might be it.
that's the core of my idea is promote competition.
All right,
I could add something, but I'm not going to because we're.
let's get back to the COVID update. 'Cause
Yep.
poor
John,
has
you
been
ready?
waiting.
Yes, I am. Thank you. So I just wanted to pull up some notes here. So this past week from July 25th to 31st, we tested 218 people with 28 positive cases. That's about a 12.9% positivity rate, which is down about 3% from the previous week. We've seen, however, over the course of the last month, when you compare June to July, we've seen roughly a 76% increase in positive cases in July compared to June. 127 cases in July. It's just I think people are starting to, the COVID fatigue is off the charts. People want to be back to normal, and this is just an editorial comment here. It's likely the new normal. COVID's a part of us and our future, it appears. Keep in mind that back during the pandemic, we were looking to get to a 5% positivity rate to consider a community in a really good place. And, the last 4 weeks, our positivity rate has averaged about 12 to 13%. So, it's up there. From what I understand, it's the new, more contagious variant of, I believe it's BA5. I'm not sure. I'm not a doctor. I don't play one on TV, but it's a very contagious type of COVID. So that's what's driving the numbers at this particular point.
Yep. Bob.
John, have they factored into their percentage number that represents people who are not reporting that they had COVID?
No, these are just the tests that we're doing at Lincoln Health and comparing the positivity rate. So you could theorize that the numbers are skewed in one or another direction based on the home testings.
Okay.
All right. Good. Thank you, John.
Sure.
Town update.
Okay. Friendship Street School, it's sold, it's done, it's out of our hands. Like Julie, 326.
What did it sell for?
The final price is 326. Initially it was 351, but then after an inspection showed that there were some issues with the building. It did come down a bit to take that into account. So 326 is the final number. Am I right, Julie?
Yes, you are right.
All right.
And do we know what's going to happen to the building?
Julie, it sounds like you're gonna say something.
It's going to be living quarters, hopefully some type of a studio, potentially some live work space, or a teaching space. And it's going to be a very good thing for the community. The owner is already trying to get involved, has some great ideas for the 250th birthday. It should be a wonderful experience for both the town and the new owner.
Wonderful.
All the people who put in bids had wonderful vision for the property. So I think no matter who they chose, the select board chose, it would have been wonderful.
Now it's a matter of just where the funding will go, where the 326 will go.
Yeah, I was just gonna, I'm curious about
And
that.
the budget, I don't know how much was in Friendship School for the fiscal year, but I think Julie, that's just a matter of the select board's gonna discuss some potential items and.
So I would say there's capital funding that was left over, that was not spent, that my recommendation for the select board will be, since that was our only playground in town, that would be reinvested into providing a playground in town. And as far as the proceeds from the sale, that's something that would be discussed at the select board level. And if it is reappropriated on, would probably appear on the November ballot when we're voting for governor and all the other offices that are up.
Questions on that? Great. Other updates. Planning board had a fun month. We have, there was one applicant approved last week, Muscogee Bay over at 2018 Atlantic Highway. That's if you're heading towards Warren from here, and it just come down from the hill after Union Road. They're going to storage place. They're putting in a new boat storage building as well as a few self-storage pods as well. There really were no issues with it. There are endorsements involved in the engineering of it. Pretty straightforward application. The other one technically wasn't approved, but we'll be going back to the board next week. Is for 1540 Atlantic Highway. That's the spot that's between the subway and Main Express.
When they wanted to put the coffee shop at one time.
No, but well, yes, I can't keep track of it at this point.
Is that for purchasing fish?
Yes, that's going to be turned into a buying station so that clammers will go in, sell the clams, get out, and then the person is going to take what's purchased there and ship it down to Pantry.
Wasn't there a question of how they were going to get in and out of the traffic?
Yep, DOT gave them a permit so that they have to enter in from the egress that's closest to the town office, and then they'd have to exit on the one on the left. And the applicant's saying that he's going to close off the side that you can enter in from subway, so that people aren't just driving through the subway lot to get to his. But DOT gave them a permit for that, and the DOT permit, and I confirmed it, checked with DOT and confirmed that there's only single axle vehicles, so they can't be. Yeah.
Say that now.
So they can't have trailers or their boats with them. This is just someone that goes with their truck going in, dropping off the clams, and then leaving. And the moment it's backed up onto Route 1, DOT's going to be pulling the permit.
Yeah, so turn a blind eye until it's a problem.
I'm neither going to confirm nor deny that statement
Fair
as
enough.
worded.
The challenge becomes if all those clammers want to bring them in at the same time. Right.
Yep.
It's kind of like Food Pantry Day.
Yep.
Everybody's showing up for a 2-hour window.
Yes, no, I know.
If I can just interject, and this has been part of the concern.
Yep.
Is that it's great because it'll bring competition for the clamor. The problem becomes the public safety angle, because you have, that is the narrowest part of Route 1. And like you said, when the tide ends, they all come at once. And unfortunately, the town's going to be stuck with enforcing that permit.
Yep.
Because Route 1 in the summer backed up has issues with that. And it's complicated in that then if it just puts the town in a very bad position, because it's good for our clamming community, but will everybody understand that it's not our rules, which is why I give Max a lot of credit for being so proactive, because it's a complicated issue.
Why can't it be reversed where they come in on Route 1 and then exit? Oh, where they would be entering as originally planned. Come in on
Because
Route 1, go behind the building, and then exit on the subway side. You know what I mean? So then you don't have
Because they
people
would need-
waiting to.
Because then that would mean they need to get permission from Subway to go through there.
He doesn't own that piece of land.
Is it a lease?
So the building between Subway and J Express is its own lot. I'd have
Oh,
to
it
show-
is?
Yep, it's its own lot.
Yeah.
So, I mean, DOT would have loved if there was some way of just having the access from Depot Street, and then something magical could happen there. And then, yeah, exit out on Route 1. But
Does anybody talk to the owner of the subway? Seeing if maybe they get a waiver or like a right away or something?
they've been sent notices, and it's, I'd probably have to talk to the franchise owner. So
I think that franchise is actually for sale. I think there's a lot of 5 of them that are for sale right now.
it's a complicated. That'll probably be brought up if the permit does get pulled.
Right.
But anyways, so for 1540, they just had to amend the site plan. The planning board did add in some notes they wanted. The owner's going to paint in like a 2-lane system, put in some additional signage. And, the all emergency services did voice some very concerns that we're all talking about. I did tell them about all those proposals from the planning board, and they said, yep, it's nice that there's a lot more being done, as long as we can see that this isn't just them promised during the meeting, this is actually what's going to be done. Then they're making an effort, and that's all that can really be done. So, other than that, next week, in addition to that buying station, there's also going to be it's just doing a gravel pit on Simon Road. It's just an old one that they're going to expand upon. 122 Atlantic Highway, where Applecroft is, or Harvest Moon for those who remember it. They wanted to do a minor event center and a small campground. Yep. The way they have it proposed is that it'll be a bit more inland, so it's not going to be right there on that one. So it's very interesting. That's why if you drive by it now, you'll notice there's maybe a bit more of a new driveway closer to the bottom. There, that's going to be the new entrance for the DOT's already permitted.
Where is that, Max? I'm having trouble hearing you.
Oh, sorry. 122 Atlantic Highway will be a minor event center with campgrounds. And so if you drive by it right now, you'll see where the new driveway is going to be that DOT permitted. And the old driveway that they have at the top of the hill, that will be for emergency vehicles only. You hear all that?
I did, thank you very much.
In terms of other updates, there should be an efficiency main grant actually coming in this month. Hopefully, that means that can pay for the HVAC in this town office to work because we have to use these AC units. Yeah. Julie, just very quickly, because we were going over the map that we have here, how long has this HVAC system been in Waldoboro for the town office? Did you say it was here when it was originally built, or was this in the 2013 upgrade?
The 2013 upgrade only upgraded the controls.
There was no upgrade to the system in 2000.
I do not believe so. I believe it only made it so that the control was remote on computers.
Oh.
But those controls are now obsolete, and the control, so yeah, that's the original system with the exception of the controls. So the controls were put in, but then there were cold spots during the winter put in. So then there was electric heat put in certain places that were cold. So that was the only thing that was done in 2013. But other than that, to my knowledge, the HVAC was the original system.
Hot air furnace.
What?
Is it a hot air furnace?
A hot air furnace?
Is it a furnace?
Yes,
Is it propane or oil?
oil.
Gonna need to replace that.
Yeah, oil and
20 years old.
3 AC units.
So it seemed like the town would need some kind of a survey or some kind of analysis of this whole system. Is that probably fair?
Well, we've so far had, I think, 2 companies come in and poke their heads into the system to take a look at it. We have the layout map, but what do you mean by survey?
Well, like, an engineering analysis of the system. And here's what you need to change to make it work.
I think that was done back in 2013. And
Yeah, they did a great job.
right,
Sorry.
no, the point taken.
I freeze in the winter and I roast during the summer. So you know,
And we sit at the table here and can't hear anybody talk.
well, you know, again, I think part of the issue becomes it was done for efficiency because everybody had control of their own heat and air conditioning. And I don't think a lot of thought was given to that. There are 2 areas of that building that are 24/7. The zones don't even make sense. So, you know, I control the heat in the police department. That's 24/7. The room you sit in controls, that's never not used heavily, controls the EMS department. So yeah, that's 24/7. So even if it's got to have a complete overhaul, you can't even just go in and reuse the zones because they make no sense for what they are. And we have to remember too, that we receive our electric from the transfer station. So we have to seriously look at what's the best system for how we're powering the system too.
Yeah, we don't want to reintroduce those peaks that we got rid of.
Right.
So, yeah, that's the other update. Surveys. So they should be all set and hopefully sent out in September, I think, is when the tax bills are going out. So I assume there's no other changes anyone had to it, and we'll just be sending that out. The dates are obviously going to have to be amended to say it can be late September that we want the responses in, but in my experience, the surveys always come back almost immediately, like within the first week, and at the end, I'll probably get 2% of the responses, if I'm lucky. But that was it on the broadband survey. I feel there was more on it because we were asking about it earlier. But I think that was pretty much it, just on the status update for that.
So in terms of our approach to broadband, we're in a sit and wait. You think right now?
No, we've got to wait for that data we gathered.
Yeah.
The other side of it, like I said, I'm trying to be proactive in terms of what to prepare this group with to help interpret not so much the results from that survey, those will be on their own. But once you have that, how do you weigh your options? What do you decide to ask for or recommend?
One thing that would help, and I've done this at your advice, I've gone to Fidium and I've completed their survey. And my guess is, all right, they know someone on Friendship Road who's interested. If there were 50 people on Friendship Road that went in and completed the survey, they'd know there were 50 people on Friendship Road who were interested.
Yeah.
And that might encourage them to have a look at what they're doing with their engineering program.
That's part of how they're gauging interest. And then
Yeah.
also, you know, they're building to densities. When you look at a place like Rockland, it's really easy to get a lot of sort of dense stuff on. I shared a link on Enhanced Waldoboro, which isn't an official Waldoboro thing, but people seem to read it. There's like 1,000 numbers. And I've got a link on there where you can fill out that you're interested in it. And if your address doesn't come up, there's a number you can call. You give them your address and you try a couple days later, and then the system will let you plug yourself in. But you've got to be sort of persistent to get there. I asked them if we could send them an E911 list. What I should have done was ask Max if that exists. If we have a way to feed them all of the addresses in town, they can pre-populate that list. That would not sign people up. That would allow people, when they enter their address for Fidium, to say, oh, this is where you are.
I just went to fidium.com.
Yep.
I didn't call anybody.
Mhm.
And they got back to me.
Yep, some work, some don't.
Okay.
My neighbor Janice over at 30 Mactown Road, her address pops up in there. Mine actually didn't. My house is newer and closer. So I don't know what the rhyme or reason is for what they know about. I kind of thought they'd have more because I think they own the actual copper phone lines in most of Waldoboro. So I expected them to have the majority of that list, but you'd be shocked at the amount of utilities that don't know where their stuff is. And it's not just broadband, it's every utility on that pole, whatever they deliver. They don't know where their own stuff is half the time. And it's down to a technician will install something and not document it. I see the same thing at work.
Yeah, I do too.
We use printers all the time. Someone made it work and didn't tell anyone. So that's what these companies are dealing with.
So Jen, I see your hand up.
My address was on the list, and so I signed up as interested. I got the email back. But I was surprised that they even had me down there. I don't know how I got it. I must have followed a link on something to get there.
No idea. But good job. Thank you. And it's like any other service. That's sort of the grassroots stuff. Is people one at a time need to indicate it's something they would want.
The only other one, and Julie just left, so.
Yep.
On the, maybe I put it on the agenda, the rail service, is that under town updates or is that later?
I actually did not see your latest agenda. I'm using a remote agenda.
It's under town updates, and so is Sylvania. I'm reading your agenda.
All right, thank you, Jen. For Sylvania,
I got Sylvania.
for Sylvania, same thing. We're going to be having a broad survey in September as well. There's going to be 2 surveys going out with the tax bills, just to get some impressions from people about some uses for the site and for Hobbs's house. The tarp that's on roof is going to have to be redone because those winds blew it right off, which is amazing. Mud Dance has actually done some cutting to get to the ground well, so we're going to start exploring some potential trail paths, at least with Midcoast Conservancy, just to get an idea so that if people are open to the idea of trails along the waterfront, which I would imagine. I can't imagine people saying no. to that.
That sounds wonderful.
That sounds great.
But who knows? Who knows? I've heard crazier things.
Sure.
I've seen stranger things.
I bet you have.
Now on Netflix. That's just some potential work. And Julie and I are talking with Max Luke up at AED about capping it. Actually, we did get a response. So the Sylvania committee doesn't even know it yet, but they're open. They're fine with the idea of capping it. They just want, it was recommended that we have, I don't think an engineer is specifically what his name, but someone to just give a plan for what it would be to actually have the site capped.
That
But
makes sense.
What does cap mean?
so if you go to the site right now, you'll see all the vegetation going through the cracks.
Yeah. Slab.
Yeah, the slabs where the building used to be
Yeah.
and the parking lot. What capping it would be is just putting a new material over it pretty much so that it doesn't break open, and because some of the hazardous materials buried.
It's underneath it, yeah.
So we want, and that was always like phase 1 for this whole thing of just, I called it greening it up. We're the Green New Deal for Waldoboro before someone else decided to steal that at the federal level. But I digress. Pretty much just cover it with some material. Mike Thayer kept saying it during this.
Yeah, we did.
What was the
Bentonite.
bentonite? And then,
Would we be able to use the top of that for like parking or?
yep, well, that was the whole point of it. Cover it up. Could be some topsoil with grass, could be paving it, something that DEP would be fine with so that it doesn't break anymore. And then it could be parking, it could be solar farm, it could be pickleball courts, it could be a boat storage unit, it could be literally anything at that point, as long as we're not digging. So I have to send that notice out to Sylvania because I just got it. But that was it on Sylvania.
Can I just ask something?
Yeah, sure.
We got two surveys coming down the pike. Is there a way of letting people know every week for the next 5 or 6 weeks that their tax bills are going to have a survey in it? And to expect it and to please respond to it?
I think we'll probably have to just do a press release of Lincoln County News and then putting something on Facebook as well that just says your tax bills are more important. Not only is there the actual tax bill, but there are these two pretty important surveys that could help determine what Waldoboro does next on some pretty important topics.
Yeah.
So that was it for Sylvania, unless anyone had questions on that. So I wish George was here because he might actually be interested in this next topic. So I've been trying to work up something on the passenger rail service. I think everyone's been seeing the Courier Gazette articles, and like, I don't think Lincoln County News is doing it, but pretty much there is an individual from New York who's going to try and do passenger service from Brunswick to Rockland. You know, the thing they keep teasing us is going to happen every year for the last 10 years. Yeah. In the article, it always says they're going to look at Waldoboro first stop. Well, I did reach out to the executive director, Patricia Quinn, of the Amtrak Down East, and they said they just want to get the service going first. And so Damerscott and Newcastle has everything, Wisconsin has everything, Bath has everything, Rockland has everything. They just want to be sure that that line can work.
Because we would literally have to build a station.
We will literally have to build a station. Well,
Would that be over behind AmeriGas then?
Next to it,
yeah.
Well,
Well,
is it next to it?
well, hold
On
on.
the other side of the track.
it burned down, didn't it?
Well, yes and no on a lot of the stuff that's being talked about. So they just want to see if there's enough interest in the Mid-Coast region to even do the service.
Yeah.
And, you know, if there's this huge demand in Waldoboro, then, hey, it only makes sense to have a stop. If it was to happen, I'm pretty sure it would actually be here on Depot Street, because that's where DOT actually has a bigger gap from the rails. Although you're right, the old train station did burn down. Now, if that's seen as a more viable spot to have the stop, then obviously they put it there. And Patricia is open to doing a site visit sometime in the future when there is more interest.
Who owns that?
Who owns?
Parker Spofford owned it, and then he died, and his estate
Isn't it
sold to
privately
somebody,
Are we talking Depot or are we talking?
No, the
the
one that-
original one.
the original one.
It's either propane, a propane company, or the Rady's, I think, and there are a couple who live down in Florida. Right now, there's no. Right now, because I've been told by Amtrak, they don't really want to start pushing the envelope for how many stops they'll do in this one thing. I figured, okay, we'll give it some time then, let it breathe. But that was just an update I wanted to give some people on that. Now, there is the freight train service that's going to be restarting again. And we got an email from them saying that if there are businesses in the area that are looking to do some freight trains, like have stuff transport on the freight trains, then to reach out to them, and that might be able to get at least a commercial stop. Which again, this might have been more something, if George was here, he might have something at the industrial park or even just
Did they used to have, didn't they used to have a stop with a like a kind of an industrial platform at the park, at the industrial park?
But that's why I'm saying, I wish George was here, he would know
Yeah,
that.
me too.
But yeah, if anyone can think of businesses like that, and I don't mind sharing that email once this meeting's over, but yeah, if anyone can think of someone who has like a huge load of product that has to be transported on rails, then
Hobo might. I mean, they bring containers in from Israel every so often. They're bringing more in now than they used to. That could be put on a train and brought up here.
but I assume if you're saying they get it from Israel, then it goes to Portland Harbor and then,
No, it goes to Boston or New York, depends.
okay, and then it would take the,
And then it gets trucked up here in a container.
so that actually might,
So we put the container on a train and avoid the trucking. Might be competitive.
What's the product that they have?
Hobo. It's just a
Oh, is that oil? Is that
jojoba,
jojoba oil?
like jojoba.
Oh, yeah, over on 17?
Yeah.
Okay.
You seem to know a lot about it.
A little bit.
feels like you owned it.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah.
Oh, no kidding.
That's all I had on the updates.
All right, good, thank you.
Oh, you're trying to trick me.
So that takes us to old business. George isn't here, so we can't get
Took it well.
any updates on what's going on up at his facility, but you mentioned the TIF district, but maybe we'd want to
Yeah, I forgot.
start
to-
looking at that again.
Yeah, I forgot to send all that out, didn't I? I think I mentioned at a previous meeting, I think just to simplify it all, really the amendment is just going to be removing the Sylvania site in Hoff's house so that we don't have to get penalized for that 2019 value it had before the town took it over, because that means we actually haven't gained anything from the tip at this point.
Yeah.
But that's really other than that, the only other suggestion is just amending the project costs so that broadband is actually a topic, something that can be addressed for residential purposes as opposed to just commercial purposes. And then there's also some items on affordable housing, so the town could acquire or demolish some, what is it? Decrepit buildings so that it would be more appealing to actually create some affordable housing options for partners. That's because the state actually amended the TIF language back in 2020, 2021, when we were actually getting approved. Because originally there's the economic TIF, the housing TIF, and the downtown TIF, with their obvious differences. But in 2020, they amended it to pretty much add in affordable housing and broadband to the economic TIF. So we don't have to make our own separate housing TIF to address affordable units. We can just add it into the TIF process.
Into it, okay.
And this, I mean, by next tax season, there's actually going to be a lot going on. 'Cause at that point, Friendship Street School will go from $0 to whatever it's priced at now.
Yeah.
Then any improvements that the owners can make. We're having the revaluation done. 80 grade might, I don't know if 80 grade is actually going to finally go into Volunteers for America's hands at that point. But they have the CDBG money, I would assume, no, I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, it is a nonprofit.
Well,
There's that issue.
whether it's next year or the year
But
after.
does it matter who owns it as far as the TIF is concerned, as long as it's taxable?
As long as it's taxable, that's all that matters.
Okay,
Because right now, under the town's possession, it's $0.
right.
But the moment it goes into private hands, even if it's Volunteers for America, it goes to whatever the normal value is right now.
Right.
And we get whatever, right.
Then, then there's the American Miyagi facility. Well, that's this year, but
That's already, isn't that already in the TIF zone?
that is in the TIF. But I'm just saying, those are like some big core
Oh,
items
yeah.
that by next year,
We'll actually start seeing some impact.
yeah, and if we get rid of the Sylvania and Hoff's house now, that's $500,000 in the original value that we'd be getting rid of.
Yep.
So we don't have to build up to $500,000 and then start profit.
Start from zero.
Right.
Yeah.
So
I did
that'll
want
be
to,
on the ballot in November.
I'm hoping I can get that.
What do we need to do to make that happen?
I'm working with the state right now to just make sure I have the amendments done correctly. And then it's like when we did the original TIF where we'll hold public hearing. we put it on the ballot.
But the window's getting smaller because November's coming up and you have to
Oh,
have
I know.
hearings and all that.
I know, I
Like a
got,
freight train.
I got this month.
Okay,
I got this month to put it
Okay.
all together.
Yeah.
So then so you said there's a survey going out on Sylvania.
Yes.
Is there any part of the survey that asks people if they want to develop that into a commercial business park?
Not a business park, but it pretty much asks what uses people would like to see in those two spots. The Hoff's house, if people want to see just the house sold, if they want to see the whole lot sold, if they want to see just the house leased or the whole lot leased. And then with Sylvania site, do you want to see solar farm owned by the town? Do you want to see electric battery storage? Do you want to just leave it and let nature take its course? Do you want to, you laugh, but that was
One of the options.
that was brought up quite a
It
bit
was.
during the Sylvania debate.
yeah.
Put in some commercial storage, put in a dog park, put in, I don't think we put in Julie's idea of an electric go-kart, which I still think, electric go-kart, I think people would go for it. I think if you put it on there, people would go for it. But that's just me. But yeah, it just gives all the uses we've heard and just lets people say whether or not they're crazy ideas or not.
So if that's gonna be top or bet night, you can't drill.
Right.
How exactly are you gonna put any kind of commercial industry at all? Like even a solar farm, you have to drill to place, your uprights.
Well, bet night was what was being suggested, but we'd have to get the engineer for DEP to say yes to the cap, and we'd have to let the engineer know what was different on.
Yeah, okay.
But the actual cap is a tiny piece of the property.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just the concrete.
Like
Right.
58.
So the actual.
Oh,
prop-
is it really?
the
Oh,
property's
I was just thinking it was just the parking
Yeah.
lot there. Okay.
So that is, we have to figure out what to do with that little spot, but
Right.
there is a lot of other land there
Yeah.
that's usable.
Yeah.
And even with the commercial or the solar, it would pretty much just be bumping it up beyond that for something that can't be drilled into. to
Oh,
anchor
I
it down.
see. Yeah.
But that's why we just need to know. That's
All right. I think any other old business? Oh, yeah, Jen.
I got a question, Max. I was wondering, I know that, all the residential property is like selling like hotcakes, but what about the commercial property in town that's been sitting for so long? Is that starting to show any movement?
commercial property.
Empty commercial space that are just on the market. I mean, I didn't know if you had an idea if people were coming in asking about stuff or anything.
I don't know. That would be a Daryl question, but I mean, things. I think the market's starting to cool down. Like, well, I'd hope at least that someone wants to buy a house too.
Yeah, fair.
I mean, Daryl was just telling us how there was a place in town, I think, that was on the market for about 900 and it sold for 1.2.
Is that
In town?
Well, he was just telling me that today.
Oh, it's everything that I've read and seen is nobody's overbidding prices at this point. Because
Well, that might be
things are just, I mean, I watch the market every day and it's exploding with inventory.
Well, that might be. I mean, he only told me it today. It might have been something that happened weeks ago, for all I know.
Yeah, it's moving very quickly.
Interest rates have a way of quieting down. that market.
Yeah, what are they, like 6.25 now?
6% for 30 years? That's
Yeah.
Really up
And they
there.
just put it
Wow,
up
that's
3/4
real
of a
money.
basis point.
That's real money.
Yeah, that's a chunk.
But anyways, to your point, Jen, I mean, the only commercial example I can think of is Cider Hill. That was put back on the market recently, but for $900,000. I think they dropped the price down to maybe $750,000.
We also have like Town Line Market over here on the Warren line. That's actually Waldoboro, Warren. We have, I mean, there's a few kind of empty places that were formerly businesses that have been on the market. I just didn't know, if we were watching that too. I was waiting for a long time. I knew that while residential was hot, that maybe people weren't really ready to take a risk on starting a business or buying a commercial property yet. But I figured at some point they'll start looking at that. And maybe not while the interest rates are high.
Right. Well, and I mean, I was talking with an individual who's looking at moving his business in Waldoboro, but leasing a commercial building, not buying it. I mean, even this individual at 1540 Atlantic Highway, he's not buying the building, he's leasing the building for about 5 years or so. So some people in the commercial industry just still want to lease the buildings.
That's smart. That's smart.
All right, so any more old business? Any new business?
Jen, did I put anything down for new business?
What was the new business?
I didn't see anything under new business at all, Max.
Okay.
You were talking about targeting things,
Oh,
specific directions.
yes. I thought maybe a possible idea is to kind of focus on one or two industries that maybe the town is interested in moving forward with, and then kind of focusing on them and targeting businesses, maybe out of state, in state, or just drawing more people that are in those industries into the town, so you can kind of produce a what's the word I'm looking for, a conglomerate of these individuals that could all work together, like they're doing up at George's place. You know, try to get like aquaculture, agriculture, but just kind of focus on those, and instead of just willy-nilly trying to see who just randomly will come into town, maybe advertising for a specific thing. And, you know, especially if it's agriculture or something like that. I mean, obviously the mid-coast is real big on tourism. If you had something concentrated like an agricultural industry, that might be a reason to bring more tourism into the town. Just an idea.
It's a new idea. I like it. I like the ideas.
You also talked about short and the idea of a video.
Yeah, I thought maybe I think that as technologies come in, you probably know more about this than I would, Ruben, but as technology improves and there's more access, maybe having like a brochure is not necessarily the direction we want to go in, but maybe having videos on YouTube instead of reaching, you know, the random person that stops in the town hall that can take a peek at the brochure or happenstance comes across it. You can reach millions of people on a free video on YouTube. It might cost, you know, a couple $1,000s, or just somebody that's got a passion for the project. You know, I talked to Jan about him having his drone, and just kind of going in that direction and starting to move in the direction of utilizing the technology that's available versus, you know, utilizing anything that's in the past, just not because it's not valued, but you could just reach more people. I mean, you exponentially reach the people that you're looking to.
So
Have
kind of
you
like
seen-
a video brochure.
Exactly.
Have you seen our,
Yeah.
have you seen our video yet? The one that we paid to be made?
I have not.
It's a great one. I
Is
think,
it on YouTube?
I believe it is. It was made, I think it's at home on Vimeo though, but it should be on the town website somewhere, isn't it, Max?
I didn't even know there was one. If I be
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
For now.
It's been more than 5 minutes and you're a very busy man.
it's 10 past 8. I've checked out.
Yeah.
So why don't we go ahead and put this on next month's calendar? I think George is the one who needs to be a participant.
Yeah, I think he's already got the industry moving.
He's already got the industry moving.
Yeah.
and He's,
It's
I
got a
mean,
good eye on it too.
right,
I
and
mean,
so,
even if you were bringing in people that were doing like an incubator kind of thing.
well, and he would say, he would be a good source to say things like, yeah, you know, we could really use more of this kind of business or that kind of business in town.
Right.
You know, like I'm going to say it wrong, but the Ugani,
American United.
Unagi. So that would, you know, business like that, like, wow, I mean, amazing. So are there other businesses like that? That maybe because there's all these similar type
Yeah, they can
industries around,
interface
that
with each other.
there's some synergy that they can.
Exactly.
That they can work on. So, but I think George, it starts with George, so let's get it on the agenda. And then I'm calling it a video brochure, and I got aquaculture with a question mark.
I mean, that seems to be the most reasonable aquaculture end of it.
There's
So we
that,
go in that direction.
and there's also a good movement in town for the arts, which is another thing.
Yep.
So I know there's a group that bought the church that have been doing some concerts and things, the Church on Friendship.
Oh, the Methodist Church?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, a couple of three New Yorkers, I think.
What are they doing up there?
They're kind of a nonprofit, I guess. But they put on concerts.
Uh-huh.
There's 2 girls and a gentleman, and I'm not sure. We haven't gone to any, but they've been on Facebook.
Oh, they are on Facebook. Need to keep my peepers open a little bit better. I'm not seeing all this information you guys are bringing out.
Jen, you'll probably just have to send me the link, or we'll have to talk. about
I'm sending it now on the email that you sent out to all of us.
All right, thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
And if it's not on YouTube, I'll just put it on the town's YouTube page.
I just Googled videos about Waldoboro,
Yeah.
and like 10 of them came up. Some of them are about selling property. Some of them are about Quarry Hill. Some of them are about houses and places to go in Waldoboro.
Yep.
I haven't looked at them, but they're not what we were talking about.
Yeah.
Actually, the Quarry Hill thing does remind me of a town update I forgot to mention. Blueberries are good for harvesting up there at Quarry Hill. So, and I saw plenty when I went up 2 weekends ago. So unless someone went up there and took it all, you know where some wild blueberries are.
Is that open for harvesting?
Yeah.
Right? Oh, no, good.
You can grab a container here in the hallway of the town office.
I love me some blueberries. Good
Right.
antioxidants.
All right, any other new business? All right, we are adjourned.